Time to get started. We need to get that. And that one goes right there. All right, good to see everybody this morning. Obviously, we called everybody in here for a special occasion regarding the Breakout Connections groups that we're doing. We want to kind of make sure we're all on the same page, kind of do some evaluation and such. Before we get started, a couple of orders of business. Number one, it is Miss Cassie's birthday. Can I go ahead and tell your age and also what? All right. I was going to do it anyway. She is 60 years old, but she told Kim that she feels 20. When I was 20, I felt 60. So happy birthday, Miss Cassie. Let's go ahead and begin with a prayer. You want to go and leave that for us? As we do that, if y'all would, most everybody knows remember Troy as well. Preston and I have been tasked with handling this morning. He's at home, probably Troy doesn't feel in position right now, not feeling very at all. So dealing with kidney stones, so remember him as he's going through this process. Not much progress yet, so remember him in your prayers. Let's go. Father, we're so grateful, humble about this day. Thank you, Lord, for this morning, for time that we can be together with us. And thank you for the creation that surrounds us this morning. Thank you for your beauty and your glory that we can enjoy you. Thank you for being our Father and for the privilege of being your children. And as we gather this morning, we pray that is at the forefront of our mind, that we are here to commune with our family and to worship and glorify our Father. As we enter into this period, our Bible study period, as we talk about the items of church and the things that we have been doing, Father, may we do it in a way that would please you, Father. We open up the floor for certain things, evaluate and discuss the progress of certain things. May we look to you for the guidance and words that we need, Father, and look at these things that we've been doing and see how they have honored you. Father, may we continue through all of our lives, everything we do, every prayer we get, everything we say. May we always seek to honor and glorify you. We pray a special prayer for Troy. Father, be with him on him right now, knowing that this is a very painful situation to be in. And Father, knowing that he's struggling, pray that you would give him some comfort, that you would give him strength to press on and carry on, Father, and that this situation will subside very quickly. If it is the case that he has to go and have a procedure done, pray that you would those people work upon him, and that they can help him get back to prayer. So we raise him up to you as well. And all of this, we pray through Jesus. Okay, as Casey mentioned, this is Troy's presentation, and so if he's watching this morning on YouTube, he's going to be in more pain after we butcher this. But he did a great job putting everything together, so I'm basically going to be reading the part that I'm doing. It's pretty self-explanatory, and so we'll just kind of move along. There will be time for discussion and suggestions and questions and things like that as we near the end of our session this morning, so don't feel like you're not going to have that opportunity. We do want you to speak up regarding this. So we're going to emphasize what we're doing well. We're going to attempt to improve on areas that are lacking. I'll get out of your way. Eventually. Okay. So we're going to obviously attempt to improve on areas that are lacking, and so suggestions are obviously welcome. No promises on following through with some of those, but we want to do this in such a way that brings glory to God and that in a way that we fulfill the purposes of what we're doing. And so let's go ahead and talk about that for just a minute. What are the purposes of our coming together on Sunday nights and doing these small groups? Let me go ahead and get your feedback first before I put anything on the screen here. Why have we been doing this? Relationships, all right? So building relationships. So
Let's go ahead and look at a couple of passages very quickly. If someone can get Romans 14, 17 through 19. We're not going to look at all of these, but a couple of them anyway. And Philippians 2:4, somebody else could get that for us. Philippians 2:4. And then also Hebrews 10, 24 and 25. Let's do those. Hebrews 10, 24 and 25. All right, who has Romans 14? Anybody? All right, the building up of one another. Obviously, God's word emphasizes that, doesn't it? All right, let's look at Philippians 2:4. All right, and then Hebrews 10, 24 and 25. All right, so again, the right answer was that, to build relationships, to build relationships. How have we been doing this? What have we been doing with the sermons? We've been emphasizing certain points, right, in the sermons, and then making applications with those on Sunday night. So we're breaking out into these groups to make connections and using the Sunday morning sermon kind of as the basis to do that, the format to do that. So that's the purpose. Now some basics, and most everyone is aware of these, but just in case you haven't been participating in this will give you an idea as to what we've been doing. Each group has a leader and a co-leader. We have, I think, 12 groups now, and with how many did we first decide to have in the group? No, we don't want to no more than 12, is that right? I think 12 groups, 12 people. How many of you have more than 12 people in your group? Okay, we've got a few, and then it depends Sunday from Sunday because sometimes we have visitors and so forth, which is a good challenge, I think, regarding this. So a little bit more than we anticipated, I think, at first, and that's good. That's really good. All right, so any member of the church and also visitors obviously are welcome to participate in this. And we have our elders. Are elders still kind of rotating among the groups, or have you chosen one and stuck with it so far? Rotate. You can use your words. Sometimes I don't know sign language. Either he said they're rotating or he told me wrap this up. I'm not sure what. All right, still rotating around. And that gives the elders an opportunity to kind of get a feel for what's going on in the congregation. Because of the nature of the group, sometimes we discuss things that are going on in our lives and how the sermons apply that or apply to our lives and how we apply our lives to those points made in the sermon. So that's the reasoning for that. All right, so Casey's going to take it from this point. He's going to share a couple things with us and then back to me, I guess.
All right. So let me go ahead and say this. If you don't have Daddy Jack in your small group, you're missing out. That's all I got to say. If you don't have him in your group, you are totally missing out on some life experience. And my two teenagers that are in there have definitely gained some life experience through having him in our group. So I told him, I said, I think y'all learn more in here than you do at school. So it's been really, really fun. I hope everyone has enjoyed being a part of this. But as we've gone through this first session, these 16 weeks, we've noticed some things. We've collected some data. What are some things that we can look at? Maybe what are some things we can improve on? One of the first things we want to look at is this. Once you're in a group, try and stay in that group. That's one of the requests that we have for anyone once you sign up. Because once we sign up, again for this next session, you may not get in the group you want to be in. And some people are like itching, like I have to be in that group. I have to be with that person. I don't necessarily feel comfortable in my group. I don't know anyone very well. That's the point. That's the point of it, is you may not know these people very well, and you want to be in this group to make these connections, to create these relationships. And so from the very beginning, the first couple of weeks may be a little uncomfortable. And you may say, well, I don't really have anything in common. I don't really maybe get to talk. I don't have anything to say. I don't have anything in common. Give it some time. Please give it some time. That is what we ask is once you're in a group, once you sign up, just please go to that group and see what that group can offer you, especially if you stay in it for the 12 weeks. You're going to be blessed by that. You're going to create relationships. You're going to create these connections with people and get to know more about people. You're going to have meaningful discussion. The first couple of weeks are, even if we're already doing this now, once we have a brand new group, it's going to take a couple of weeks to settle in. So try and stay where you're at, if at all possible. If you must switch, and we emphasize if you must switch, please see one of the elders about that. We want the elders to kind of control that, and that way we don't have like, oh, we heard, Billy Hudgens' group was really, really awesome, and then, 65 people want to go and sit in the little bitty kid classroom with Billy. I have no doubts Billy's group is really awesome, but your group will be too, depending on how much you offer and how engaged you are with it. So if you must switch, give it a couple of weeks first, then see one of the elders about that, and then they'll see what they can do. We want to keep all the groups together if possible. One of the things to offer, this is kind of this next point, kind of bouncing off this first one, one of the things that can really help your group be what you're looking for is your preparation to it. Be prepared. Take time and think about the discussion you're going to have. One of the very inspirational things that we have seen for whoever is speaking up front on a Sunday morning, everyone's participating. Everyone has a sheet. Everyone's participating. Everyone's taking notes. So that means we should all be prepared. Be prepared when you come into the discussion that night. Think about what you want to say. The discussion questions that are prepared at the bottom are for your benefit ahead of time. For you to think about maybe what you want to talk about. Where do you want to go with this? All of us have different life application when we read some of these questions and these discussion points. We all have different places that we're in our spiritual life. And so we have a lot to offer to this. So be prepared when you come to class. Be prepared when you come to these groups because you may say something that no one else has thought about. And it's really going to help foster the discussion from there. So that will actually help you not want to jump ship so quickly if everyone comes to the group prepared. Want to remember this is a reminder, both of these reminders. This is not necessarily a formal Bible study. Some people have been like, well, we're not really studying the Bible at all. It's not necessarily a formal Bible study. You may read a passage or two while you're in there, depending on who your group leader is. It will really depend on how much you dig deep into the Scriptures. Some really want to use that as the main foundation of the discussion. Some want to really dive into the life application of it and really just start talking. So it really depends on who your group leader is. But this is not set up to be a formal Bible study. This is set up to be a discussion for us to take everything that we learned from Scripture that day and then apply it to us. And I guess that's one of the things that we want to emphasize now as we talk about applying it to us is we have a knack sometimes as the church to go into a discussion, to hear the lesson that's been taught that day, and we think about 16 other people that really could have used that lesson and really needs to hear this and how we would apply it to their life. One of the things we want to encourage is to stay away from those types of discussions. We even get caught up sometimes in talking about how the world needs this. And we talk about the culture and the society outside the world and how they need this. These breakout connections are for us to use Sunday morning lessons and apply them to our life. And that's it. And I know that we deal with the outside world a lot, but one of the things we want to avoid is trying to attribute the things that we heard and we learned that day and attributing them to other people. We want to make it about us. We want to foster the discussion on how does this apply to me? Does this impact me positively, negatively? What are things that we need to work on, that I need to work on? And we go around and we talk about those things. This is a group discussion applying personal aspects from the Scripture. That's one of the things we want to do. So the second reminder in that would be not a platform for complaining, debating, or for criticizing. If you've noticed this, a lot of our subject matter has been very I won't say controversial, but it's been a little edgy, and there's been some hard topics that we've talked about, right? And there was at one point we talked about the leadership of just an example. We talked about leadership one day, and we really emphasized the leadership of the congregation and the eldership. And so then some people see that as a platform. Well, let's talk about the leadership of the congregation, and we go into our small groups and we just blast the elders. It's not really what we were looking for, just blasting the eldership. We don't want to use these as a platform to complain about, well, here's the things that I want to see in the church. Here's the things that I want done. And maybe we have conflicting views, and so we use the whole hour to debate our conflicting views, or we criticize the things that are going on. Well, these are some things that I don't like. Here's some things that I think should be done better. Again, we want to emphasize these are about personal things, personal aspects, how we're going to apply the Scriptures to us. And so if we come into the discussion prepared in that mindset, that this is about us as a group, but I'm coming in seeking how to impact my life. You know, this is seeking how I can be better, how I can apply these things to my life, my spirituality better, and not necessarily trying to solve all the problems of the world and trying to fix everyone in the world and in the congregation and the leadership and all that. They're doing that too, I assure you, especially our leadership, those in positions of leadership. They're taking this seriously too. They're considering the words that are said and spoken through Scripture about themselves. They're always open, as they've said before. They're always open for your constructive criticism or your thoughts. There's a mailbox right back there. You put your name on it and throw one in there, or set up a meeting with them. They'd be happy to do that. But I'm sure, especially being in a small group session and sitting in the back, sitting in with the group, and then being blasted, that's like, oh man, what's the quickest way out of this room right now? We don't want to put anybody in that position, not even just an elder, but any member. You may have a struggling member in your group, may have a denominational person visiting in your group. Let's emphasize this for a second. We've had lots of visitors. We've had denominational members visiting us. Going back to the debating or criticizing, if you slam the Baptist church, you start to criticize the denominational world, and then you start actually naming names of congregations of those places in the area, Pensacola, Pace, and Milton, and those people are sitting in your group, and you have no idea they go there, we may have lost an evangelistic opportunity in that moment. That's something for us to consider. If you don't know someone, especially when they come into your group, be careful about the words that you say a lot of times. You may not know who's in there. You may not know where they come from, what they're dealing with, you know, what are some of the questions that they're seeking. We've had some people come and visit, like denominational people come and visit during these group sessions. What's their purpose in that? They may just be with a friend, but they may actually be seeking something, and we want to help them and not run them off in that moment. So just some reminders as we're facilitating these discussions, to be mindful of why you're here, the words that you use, etc. Okay, once the breakout session has ended, please make your way immediately to the auditorium for the devotional. I feel like we've done a pretty decent job of this. Again, this is Troy's slide, so I'm not sure the actual thought process behind this, but one of the things we want to do is make our way to the auditorium for the devotional as quickly as possible. We know we've got a lot of young adults with small children that want to get their children home for bed as quickly as possible. So we want to get in here so everyone's in here, and that's one thing we want to emphasize too, is that everyone be in here. This is a time of worship. This is a time that we are gathered as the body of Christ. So don't abandon ship as soon as your group session is over. That's one of the things we don't want to encourage is, well, my hour's up, and then we have, a third of our people leave before you come into the worship service. This is just as important, if not more, than what we're doing in there. We're coming together to commune with each other again and to commune with God again. And if the elders have set that aside, then we should set it aside as well to be with our group, to be with our church family in here in another period of worship. So don't abandon ship, don't leave. Please make your way here as quickly as possible. and purpose in your heart to make connections. This is a great opportunity. We've emphasized that already. This is an opportunity to really make connections, to learn about a lot of different people. I'm sure a lot of you have done that. You probably know more about the people in your group than you ever thought you would before you started. I can guarantee that. I know I do. There's a lot of people in my group that I know so much about now. I feel so much closer and connected with them because I would have never known any of those things about them if we wouldn't have had these opportunities. And so these classes have really been a blessing for many of us to I guess, strengthen some of our relationships, but make new relationships and kind of get out of our comfort zone and not just talking to the same people all the time. We're talking with different people now. And if you've noticed this, those people in your group, you're actually talking to those people outside of your group now, right? Where you might not have before, you might have just spoke to them, said, hey, good morning, whatever. And now after services, you may see them in the auditorium here, and you find yourself conversing with them now because you've made a relationship with them. And as we continue to do this over and over and over again, you will continue to do that and branch your relationships out more and more and more. So purpose in your heart in this to really dive into it and make the connections that we're seeking to make. All right, some possibilities here, and I may struggle through this one a little bit. But hear me out, and I'll try and go as quickly as possible. One of the things that we talked about when we brought this idea to the table was for these groups, we tried to start small, these groups to just gather on Sunday night and to make these connections. However, we had a lot of, I won't say ulterior motives, but we had a lot of other things in mind that these groups could do outside of these Sunday night discussion groups. Get-togethers outside of here. One of the things we want to do is create these relationships, create these opportunities that these groups of people don't just want to sit in this classroom together, but they want to get together outside of this building. You're creating these relationships, so you're creating friendships, so you're creating moments and opportunities that you want to gather together just outside of Sunday night. One of the other things we had in mind was extended encouragement and edification beyond your group. If you notice, you had maybe several people absent quite often, maybe out of your group. You wanted to contact them, encourage them, connect with them, keep them informed, keep them encouraged, keep constant contact with them. But also in your group, you know a lot of people that maybe some of your older folks are friends with, maybe some of your younger folks are friends with that aren't there. You know they're not a part of a group. You know they don't really attend that night. You keep constant contact with those people. You reach out to those people. You want to extend your encouragement and your edification out and try and reach every single member of this congregation. Those that didn't have any intention of signing up and being a part of these Sunday night groups. All of us in our groups know someone like that. Talk about those people, not talk about those people. Don't talk about those people. But mention, discuss, and pray for those people and reach out to those people as a group. Not just that one person that brought the name up, but then take the other 12 or 15 people you got in the group and reach out to those people. You might actually interest them enough that they'll come and be a part of these groups. And that's one of the things we want to do. Evangelistic opportunities, there's so much we can do with that. Service projects, benevolence, social gatherings, things like that. There are so many evangelistic opportunities. We talked about our visitors that are coming. One of the things we're not doing anymore is Monday Night for the Master. A lot of you were really involved in Monday Night for the Master. There was a lot of good work that was done with that program. One of the things that we could do is put some of those things into these connection groups. Whether that be making a meal for someone one night out of the week. Your group can get together and make a meal for someone. Take it to them. Write cards. If one of your major things was writing cards to people, reach out to those people. Write cards. Maybe do a service project together. Get together one day out of the month and go somewhere and do a service project for someone. That's one of the things we want to maybe emphasize and encourage with these groups, especially this next time around. Get together with your group outside of the Sunday night format and do some of these things and reach out into the community. This has also been an opportunity for leadership development, especially with our young people, but also with some other adults in the congregation that maybe had a lot of untapped potential, maybe hadn't been asked, maybe a little shy to volunteer, and so some of them have been put in a position they were kind of voluntold, like, hey, we'd love for you to be a co-leader. Jump in here. And there's been a lot of leadership development from this. That's what we want. That's what we want is people to step up and to access that untapped potential and really step up and become a leader and be a voice for some people. Everyone in here has someone that looks up to them. And you may not know the kind of leadership that you're exuding every day. And if you step up and you seek these opportunities in here, you may truly inspire someone. Consider changing groups in future phases. It's one of the things we're going to talk about here in just a second when we talk about our sign-up period. A lot of people have asked the question, well, can I stay in my group? Yes, you can stay in your group. That's fantastic. Here's one thing that we want to encourage, though. Try and get out of that group later. If we all stayed in the same group, what was one of the main reasons we created these Breakout Connections? Because we felt like the church had a problem with what? Cliques, okay? So if everybody stays in their same group, all 12 groups stay together, and nobody changes their groups, what then do we have? Cliques, yes. So we're really just fostering the problem then, right? So we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that at all. We want to continue to make these connections and these relationships. Some of you like your leaders. Some of you like the friendships that you've made in there. And so if you want to stay in your group, I think that's fine. But as we continue through this process, through the next time or two that you have an opportunity to sign up, consider branching out. Consider branching out and meeting other people. Husbands and wives, consider splitting up. Ooh. Yeah, not splitting up. Don't do that. We don't encourage that, but consider splitting up out of your group. I know like the elders, some of their wives actually went to groups, and they would bounce around and go to different groups as they were visiting and things like that. I would consider husbands and wives splitting up to be a good thing. Friends especially, if you've got some really just close friends, like I want to be in their group, consider splitting up. It would be a great opportunity. I tell you this, it's for 1 hour, one night a week. You're going to be with them. If you're really close friends, you probably spend more time with them outside of services anyway. It's for 1 hour, one night a week. So consider changing groups and getting out of that comfort zone, because that's one thing that these Breakout Connections are going to do. They're going to create really meaningful relationships, really strong connections. We're going to get really comfortable with where we're at, the conversations that we're having, and then we're not going to want to split up. Break out of that comfort zone. Have the courage to step out and say, well, I don't really know anybody signed up for this group right now. When you're looking at the sheet, I think I'm going to join that group right there. We want to encourage that. The best that we can is to continue to branch people out and get to know as many people as possible in this process. And so that's one of the other things that we want to encourage in that. So turn it back over to Preston then, right? Signing up for new groups. I'm going to let you handle that one.
But I'm not going to. Actually, I'm gonna move past this for right now, and Mike is gonna take care of that after we do this. We're gonna look at some opportunities to make some suggestions. But let me go ahead and say this: I didn't know I was gonna have to undo what Casey was saying. By the time this is over, people are gonna be leaving the auditorium and talking about splitting up with their spouses, and then talking about those spouses in the groups. All right. So, matter of fact, Mike said this sounds like disconnection groups. Okay. So, questions and suggestions. Obviously, we want to spend some time on some constructive ideas. But I'll tell you what. I want to move past that for just a minute, and let's ask these questions. Number one, what have the Breakout Connections group done for you, and then for the church? So let's talk about that for a minute. Anybody want to volunteer? Get the ball rolling here. What has meeting together on Sunday nights done for you in a positive way? Anybody have? So nobody. There we go. All at once now. Okay, we'll start here. Okay. So you've made connections with people that you didn't have connections with before? Good. Okay, been nice. Good. I'll tell you what, those that raise their hands, okay, we're going to move our way across like this. All right, so Richard?
Unanticipated, I guess. Let's have my class teacher, third, fourth, fifth grade, last Sunday evening, and had a ball and connected those kids in a way that I didn't expect. So that was a kind of a side
Yeah.
benefit to when we connect.
Yeah, Tanya and I took care of was it the 2s and 3s or what's the 2 and 3-year-olds? Really fun. Not that I want to do that every week, but it was really fun. Okay? Who else? Okay? Okay, so something that you're looking forward to. That's really good.
I like the feeling that anybody that won't connect can connect. You told me if someone is sort of shy, maybe a little more difficult for them. I like that there's an opportunity for everyone. We don't feel like we're missing any people
Yeah.
or not being.
Yeah. And this takes us back to the purpose. So if you didn't hear Ed, what he emphasized here was it gives people the opportunity to connect. And so going back to the initial purpose and some of the thoughts that people had regarding our, Margaret Street having cliques, whether you stay in a group or move to another one to avoid the idea of cliques, even if you stayed in the group, what you have there is opportunities to connect. A lot of times, those that see this idea of there being cliques means that they don't have anybody to connect with. So this is a great opportunity. So no longer can we really complain about I just can't connect with anybody. Are you going to these groups on Sunday nights? All right. Emily. Yeah. Okay. All right, so she mentioned the idea of using it as an opportunity to evangelize. In fact, we had a Bible study last Sunday evening after services with a friend that she brought. So use this as an evangelistic opportunity. Great. All right, moving back. Yes, ma'am. Good. Yeah. So it's working, apparently. All right. Yes, ma'am. Phyllis. Okay, so kind of connecting with what Emily said regarding evangelism, just talking about different tools and different opportunities to take advantage of. Tell you what, I'm coming up this way, but I failed to get Heidi and then anybody in the balcony next. Yes. All right, good. So it's already leading. How many of your groups, by the way, how many of the groups have done things outside of the Sunday night thing? So Ed's group, if you're a leader, raise your hand if that applies. So Ed's group, Billy's group. Okay. All right. And I know that there are plans for others too, so good. All right, balcony, anybody up there? You're in the balcony because you don't want to be a part of the discussion. I know. Okay. Now coming back. Okay. Ben? Yeah. Okay. One thing that I failed to bring out in regards to how we design these is that, typically on a Sunday you have one subject or topic for Bible class, and then something else for the Sunday morning sermon, and then another subject or topic or text or whatever for Sunday night, and then Wednesday night devotionals. One thing that we started doing initially, at least, was to connect all of those things together. And so for at least 1 week, you have one particular thing in mind, and it's easier to make those applications, right, and to live that out when you're focused on one thing. So yeah, I think that helps with that. Okay, Lisa. Yeah, so it's good for family devotional. That's one of the things that we've done, not necessarily consistently, but we have done that. Sat down when we're eating and just talked about to get ready for that night, but also just to talk about it. So, all right. It's good then. Good. I mean, we do have a tendency to segregate ourselves age-wise, don't we? And that's fine, because there are times when we need to be around our peers and be able to talk about things that we all have in common. But the Bible does talk about this generational thing where the older folks teach the younger folks, and I'm sure that the young guys they have wisdom to share with the older members as well. So that's good. It means something. All right, I skipped a couple people accidentally. Miss Josie, then Brother Scott. Yeah, yeah. You kind of discover needs just in general, something that pops up, or just something that people are struggling with in life, and that now things are starting to make a lot of sense. I may have seen some things in that person, but I didn't really understand why, and so this kind of brings those things out. We'll get right back to you, Brother Joey, Brother Scott. Yeah. A lot of times, isn't it the case that if you're struggling with something, you think you're the only one, and nobody else has probably. As a new Christian, I struggled with this, and I see mature Christians also struggling with this. The idea that, wow, everybody's got it together, except for me. Everybody's lives are perfect, and Instagram picture and Facebook picture, perfect. Those snapshots in life, and you don't see behind the scenes, right? So this gives us an opportunity to know I'm not alone. I'm not alone. All right, moving up. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good. You hear that, teens? Don't let that go to your head. So how many other, okay, leaders, you raise your hands because I'll be confused otherwise. How many groups have struggled as far as not having enough time? Yeah, so that's pretty much every group. All right, that's a good problem to have, right? Okay, Brother Cook. Yeah. Not being so independent and having to depend on others, and yeah. Good. Yeah. So you've got a lot of good things that you can share with others and what they might be experiencing. All right. All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you. All right. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Mike because we're just about out of time and got some very important things to discuss regarding sign up. So, okay.
Okay, real quick for sign-ups before we dismiss and go out here to sign up. I do want to say one thing. I know we've talked a lot about connections and we talked about cliques and avoiding those and using these groups to get to know folks. But I'll tell you, on the onset of this, when the elders came to some of us and said, we really have an issue that we want to address, and it stuck with me, is there were people in this congregation, and I want to use the word, were being neglected. And that's a little bit more powerful than just saying we're trying to connect with people. Yes, we want to do that, and we're using these groups, I think, successfully to do that. But when they brought this to our attention and said there are people in this congregation that had been going here for years, and they were finding out that they left because they didn't feel like they were a part of this congregation. They were being neglected. And I think of Acts chapter 6 where it talks about the widows being neglected. It's a very powerful lesson, for us that there were men chosen to address that problem and to go take care of it in Acts chapter 6. So to me, that was part of this, is that we use this as a way to address a problem that we were having. And I'm hearing great things about these groups, about what's going on, and I'm very encouraged and very excited about continuing this throughout the next several weeks. Yes, just use this as an opportunity to look for folks, too, that you feel like maybe they're not connected. Maybe they are being neglected. And that to me is very powerful, that we don't want people to be like that. So quickly for sign-ups. Yes, you want to stay, you can stay in the group you're currently in, that's okay. And we want to encourage also to look for opportunities, maybe to connect with these people we're talking about in other groups. So look for those. But everyone must sign up to be in a group. Listen, it's accountability. We need to know. We found that there were folks that were just kind of showing up later, and it's like we already had so many people in a group. And part of the idea is that if you keep these groups at a good size, you can really develop these relationships. If we get too many people in the group, if there's 16, 20, then it becomes more difficult. And you know yourself, when you're in these groups, the bigger the size, you don't, maybe not as open about things. You talk about personal things or whatever. So, and some of the studies we've done, some of the books we've read, there's optimum size, and that was around 12 people. We maybe exceed that a little bit, but that's optimum size. But please sign up. Don't just go away going, I'll show up and I'll just show up to a group. Please sign up to one of the groups. And again, everyone must sign up. So that was, I think, Troy's point there. I want to quickly go over the groups, who they are, so you know these are the groups that you can sign up for. And it'll be out in the foyer as soon as we dismiss. Please go out there, start signing up. After our services today, worship service, you have another opportunity. But the groups are, myself and Kim are leaders, and we're still looking for a co-leader there. We've got Preston and Tanya Silcox with John Blake Temple, Anna Grace as the co-leader. We've got Cassie Bearden, Leanne, Rick and Ruth Martin, Ed Temple, Ed and Susie Temple, and then the co-leaders are Chris Davis and April Davis, Greg Lewis and Laura Lewis. The co-leaders are Bob and Rhonda Laughlin. We've got Jeff Scott and Brooke Scott are the leaders. They're still looking for a co-leader for that group. We've got Joe and Andrea Wilson, Philip and Lisa Webb are the co-leaders for that group. Billy Hudgens and Heidi Blake and Bliss Hatcher are the co-leaders for that group. Ben and Amy Boyd, the co-leaders are Daryl and Cynthia Bozeman. And then we've got Justin and Andrea Weekly, and then Larry and Ellie Cohen are the co-leaders for that group. Oscar, Sheena Laughlin, Joe and Connie Bartell, the co-leaders for that group. Troy and Andrea Spradlin, and then Mike and Angela Brown are the co-leaders for that group. So please, again, as soon as we dismiss, go out there, start signing up. There'll be tables in the back, tables to the side. All these will be spread out. There's 12 slots on here, so please fill them up. If they're filled up, go to another group. Yes? Okay. Right. So some of these folks, as you notice, will be leaving, going on the church plant. So we're 12 weeks, starting next week, and then we'll have to look at the groups themselves, okay? But for the 12 weeks, please sign up to one of these groups. Yes, Oscar?
We didn't have an opportunity to express concerns today.
Yeah.
So what's the appropriate way to do that? If anyone has any?
Go to the elders.
Hold on. Well, let's address this first.
Well, I mean, we don't have time right now.
I know we don't have time to address the concerns, but let's address the concern about addressing the concerns. Go ahead. What's the idea there?
Write it on a piece of paper, put your name on it, and put it in the mail slot in the door to the left of the stairs. Elders okay with that? I didn't give any objections. No emails, no.
Yes, there's another good point. And that's what we do in our groups is talk to your people in your group as the leaders, and if there's concerns, bring them to those leaders. We do have meetings. We've had a couple of meetings with the leaders that we can address those concerns as well. Anything else? Did you have something over here, Julie? You can what?
Put it in the box.
Okay, put it in the box. Okay. All right. We done?
Yeah, you rush out there, put it on the
Okay.
paper, and
You
then
want
got
to?
a few minutes to sign up after Bible class.
You want me to
and then
close in a prayer or something? Oh, you're gonna address it. Okay.
These weeks that we've been in the breakout groups have been awesome. I just want to take this opportunity to thank all the leaders and their co-leaders for that. You put to quiet to the naysayers. We said that this would not work. It has worked very well. We look forward to going to the future with it. And with that being said, as it was spoken of, October we have several of our members going to the plant. So if you have been a part of these groups and have not been a co-leader or leader, I'd like for you to start considering that you might want to step up and take one of those positions. And so just address one of the elders with that so that we can continue on after the plant takes place as well. Thank you.
Okay, let's go ahead and dismiss. If we've got a couple of minutes to go and do that, sign up for it. Yes. We can send it.
Good job, Preston.
It's a lot of good feedback.